Hey, what's up? It's Comic95, the Savior, and for this video, I will be doing a story time about my personal experience working for a kids' dual international school. So do keep in mind, as with all of my videos, but specifically my story times or reviews, this is my personal experience. This is what happened to me while I was working there. And this is my video on why I would personally never work for this company, and I could not recommend this company to someone that I am personally close to. But I also want to be fair, and I will admit, which you'll hear throughout the story, there were certain things that I personally did, obviously, that led to the event of me ultimately choosing not to work for this company. So I'm not going to put everything 100% on Kids Duo, but rather I do have to entirely blame them for how they handled these situations and how they allowed things to ultimately, well, go. So this is not to say, oh my God, every company is bad and I'm this perfect star employee. That's definitely not the case, but rather to say there's a difference in the, how can I say? It's one thing for you as a company to have certain rules and policies and want to make that clear. It's another thing for you to be unprofessional, inconsiderate, disrespectful, and rude. And then there's just straight out scamming people. So yeah, I don't want to get ahead of myself and tell my story, but like I said, this is not to say that I didn't do anything wrong on my end, but I'm not going to sugarcoat things and make up excuses for this company. Kids Do International is a giant, large chain school. So they use several different companies to basically recruit teachers for them. I don't feel sorry for making a bad review and potentially hurting their business, because my goal isn't to hurt their business, but rather to be honest and inform teachers that plan to work for this company. So first things first, I want to give you some backstory. I was without a job, as you guys know. I stupidly quit my job, and I spent a long time looking for a good job, and during that course, I came across a lot of bad companies. Sorry, I needed to clear my throat. But anyway, I came across a lot of bad companies, and I worked for a couple of them too. And I finally became desperate, and I decided at the end of the year that I definitely wanted to work, somewhere, so that I would at least, get the ball rolling. I was falling behind on my bills, my rent, everything. So what happened was I ended up coming across an ad for Kids Duo through another company. I forgot the name, Yaruki Switch or whatever it's called. And if you're not familiar with them, they're basically a giant dispatch company who pretends to not be affiliated with the schools that they find teachers for. But long story short, they're basically this big umbrella company in which their job is strictly to recruit teachers for their several different franchises of schools. As I kind of already just said, the schools are franchised out, so the majority of them are not run directly from the people at the top, so to speak, but rather regular people that have money and decided to start a franchise school on their own. So they pick and choose basically how much control they have. And some of those things in which they have control over is they are responsible for training the teachers, they are responsible for recruiting the teachers. And essentially, because they pretty much are the ones responsible for recruiting the teachers, unless a company just has a lot of applicants to choose from, basically, after you pass the first interview, you're going to get hired. But I'm not going to skip ahead of myself. We'll get to that in a moment. So anyway, I applied to them, and I quickly got a response back from a woman who scheduled an interview with me. So first she asked me, I think, some basic information, just confirming, my status and, where I'm located, and kind of like asking, I think during that message, she asked me which schools would I be most interested in, because it wasn't ad specific. It pretty much had it where they told you like the general age group that you would be working with. But after she sent me a message, like it had like a brochure type thing that listed all of their different, not franchises, but all of their different, I'll say franchise for lack of a better word, all of the different companies that you can work for. So for example, there was this one school, I can't remember the name of it, but basically it interested me the most because they had a location that was in Umeda Station, and it was basically short, easy, 8 to 5 like hours, which is what I wanted. Whereas the other school that ended up being put at, Kids Dual, it basically had you working a lot longer, and you were also dealing with, a more vast age group, so to speak. So normally I prefer older children because I don't like having to deal with potty training, diapers, etc. But because this place would be so much closer to me and the hours would be a little bit less for the same amount of money, why would I not take that? I'll handle changing some diapers and dealing with, dirty crap, if that means saving time on my commute. And of course, basically having shorter hours too. So anyway, I was open to commuting far. And so she ended up placing me or recommending me after the interview at the specific Kids Do a school that happens to be in Toyonaka. I will not give any names of the people that work there, but you can easily piece together my video. I feel sorry for anyone that works there, watches my video, because my goal is not to bash you per se, but rather to talk about my own experience and just be real about it. So anyway, again, not trying to get ahead of myself. So during the interview, everything was perfect. We actually had a really good conversation. My recruiter happened to have been German. And if you guys watch my channel for a minute, I am also part German. So we kind of hit it off and we talked about names, etc. Because she noticed that I had a German last name. She's like, oh, I was wondering, why your last name, whatever. So I explained my dad's side of the family, etc. to her. So anyway, hold on. Okay. Anyway, what was I about to say? So yeah, it took her a little while to get back to me, maybe about a week or two, and then might have even been less than that. I pretty much knew I got the job right away. The interview lasted long, and she did ask, some kind of good questions, but it was more like having a conversation with a friend than really interviewing, which is how I'm sure a lot of you guys feel. They pretty much hand you the job. Like the hardest question that you'll probably be asked is, why do you want to teach? Why do you want to work here? Basically, simple stuff like that. It's really nice because the interviewer also does a self-introduction, and, it's generic and scripted, of course. They've already done this a million times, but they tell you how they started working for the company and who they are, etc. They give you background on themselves. So it makes it more comfortable and easy for you to do the same thing when the interviewer then asks you to introduce yourself and tell them, why you want to work for this company, etc. So I knew I had the job before she even got back to me, and sure enough, I was right. And so, of course, it kind of got passed off to the actual franchisee, so to speak, or franchise owner of the school, who basically doubles as both the school owner and the principal. So I'm going to call this guy Kaname. His name is very close to it. And to be honest, I kind of forget how to say it. So we're just going to call him Kaname. He's the owner and principal of this school. So it took him a long time, but he did eventually get back to me, and they arranged an interview for me to come in. So we're just going to say that I was scheduled to come in at 1:00. I want to say maybe a week or two from then. And everything seemed fine. So I knew ahead of time that when I was accepting this position that I more than likely wasn't going to actually start working until at least a month from then, as that was already explained to me. But because the time frame was kind of taking a while, I kind of estimated, I don't think I'm going to be able to start, a month from now, but we'll see. So anyway, I went to the interview, and when I got there, I was pretty early, and I got there early because I was afraid of not knowing, where the school is, didn't know how far away it'd be from the station, was afraid of getting lost. So I figured that it would be best for me to, just kind of hang out in the area, not, get there too early, but I'd rather, be there early than be late. So I got there maybe about 30 minutes early. I sat around on my phone for a while, and then eventually I went up to the school about 10 minutes beforehand. And just as I've experienced before, as I've talked about this in videos in the past, when I got there, they seemed kind of shocked, oh, you're here, you're early. And so the principal even commented on the fact, little snarky remark, oh, well, I'm going to have you wait, this area, whatever. He put me inside the room the interview would be. And then he reminded me that the interview doesn't start until 1, that he'd be there at 1. So sure enough, I was petty how I always am. I made sure I kept an eye on the time, but I didn't want it to be obvious what I was doing. And they didn't come in until a couple minutes after 1:00. So they ended up being late at the end of the day anyway. So I'm okay, so you're not even on time for your own interview that you kind of arranged yourself, and I got here early, and even with you having the extra couple minutes, you're still late and not prepared. But as I've said before, you have two different reactions. You have Japanese people that if you get there early, they're ready to start right away. And then you have Japanese people that get upset if you get there too early. And then you also have people that get upset if you get there too late. So it's you don't know what game to play with people. It's really confusing, really annoying. But he wasn't angry. He just seemed a little bit why did you come at 12:50 when you don't, it's not supposed to start until 1. And I'm making up the time because I honestly don't remember the exact time that the interview was scheduled for. So Anyway, this happened last year, might I add. So back on subject. During the interview, there were a lot of issues that I had that came up. So the first thing that happened was when he came back, he brought back in a dark-skinned black guy. And I couldn't tell where this guy was from, but I'm going to assume that he was American. I could be wrong. He might be Canadian. He might be from some other country. But you never really know how to act as a black woman or really as a black person, period. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that as a black person, you have to make things easy for me because we're the same. But you know what I mean? I feel like the person that explained the situation the best was Swoozy. If you know who Swoozy is, like on YouTube, he did a video talking about working at Disney and he talked about black managers. And oh my God, I relate to that so much. It's like a pick your poison type situation. Either you get a black, and not pick your poison, it's like a situation where you either get really lucky and you have somebody that's trying to help you, or it seems like the black person's trying to work against you. And this goes into situations with cops too. Like for people that think that having black police officers are the end all solution to get rid of, police brutality against blacks, it most certainly is not. And I hate to say this as a black person myself, but it's like you give a black person power and they act like white people too. So and when I say white, I mean, you know what kind of people I'm talking about. But back on subject. So, where was I at? So yeah, this guy that was interviewing me, not even trying to be cocky, because I've not been in Japan longer than anyone. I don't know everything. I'm not some excellent person at Japanese and where I'm just a smart A know-it-all. But it was very obvious that the person interviewing me was inadequate for the job and that he was basically given the position kind of by default, it seemed, maybe because he was, bilingual and could communicate, better than the other staff at the school with the owner, or maybe it was just because, he was American, or maybe he had been there the longest. I don't know what it was, but he was basically working like as the trainer / right-hand man for the interview, for conducting it. So yeah, the black guy that was interviewing me, he had less work experience than I did, for starts. At least he came off that way. And two, he didn't have a degree in education, which all of these things became noticeable throughout our conversation. If you happen to be watching this video, please correct me if I'm wrong. But based off of our communication, that's what came out at the end of it. So during the interview, it was like anytime that, I almost said his real name, Kaname, the owner, would ask me a question, the black guy would like follow up with a more difficult question to find like a reason to weed me out, like a reason to not hire me. So we ended up getting like so deep into the conversation that I talked about how I was living with my boyfriend, and basically that's how I've been able to stay afloat during this time that I wasn't, really working. And so of course I wasn't going to go into detail with them and talk about my summer job, etc. But you'll see why this was an important piece of information that comes up later on. So anyway, yeah, like just the whole time was really weird. It was like, do you want me to work here or not? So he was kind of like having on like a poker face. I couldn't tell if he liked me or if he disliked me. But anyway, yeah, like at the end of it, one of the questions that were asked, and I think this might have actually been the Japanese owner, which is going to be ironic because you're seeing this right now in my video, he was actually concerned that I might not be able to teach the children because he thought that I was talking too fast. And so I'm thinking to myself, like, you guys are like throwing hard questions at me, and I'm speaking to two people that can speak English at a native fluent level. Of course, I'm not speaking dumbed down English to you two. So I had to stop myself. I was like, I know this is a common sense tip that I give people when they're asking for advice when interviewing. I've also been on your end of the table before where I'm the one conducting the interview. So I slowed myself down, and they did a little like sample lesson thing with me where they had me act like I was the teacher and ask questions and, answer back and forth, like, what's your favorite food? What's your name? Basic stuff. And so then once they saw I was capable of doing it, they were fine, had no more questions. I didn't even do a demo lesson, you guys. So they gave me the job, even though they didn't say it right away. But I knew I had it because at the end of the interview, he had the audacity. He actually asked me if I knew of anyone that was looking for a job. And I thought that was really weird. And so he expressed to me how, they have, all of these different, grade levels and how they're in new school and they don't have, teachers for all their classes yet. So, of course, I asked for dibs on, their K3 class, which they didn't have a teacher for. And it sounded like he was interested in giving me that class. But I would be starting at the end of the year, so like November, December-ish. So I would really probably be more like assistant teaching for the time being until the new school year started, which is now approaching us as of the recording of this video, which you're not going to get this for a while. So anyway, I didn't think anything of it, but I just kind of threw it in just to seem like I, wasn't trying to be selfish and hog the job for myself. And so I mentioned to him, like, I have some friends in the Philippines. Like, do you hire people that aren't native English speakers? And he's like, oh, no, I'm sorry, we can't do that. And he gave some crap excuse about how there's visa issues, whatever, with people from other countries. So they have to be a native English speaker. I don't buy that. I think what he really was trying to say was they just don't hire native English speakers. So whatever, which I know that they do because the girl that interviewed me was German. She was not a native English speaker. And she told me in her backstory, unless she lied, that she started off working for a kid's duo without, having any type of teaching, certification, etc. She literally just, started off there, worked her way up and, started working in the office. And now she's recruiting people online. So anyway, I didn't care. I'm trying to get a job for myself. I'm not worried about other people. And so, yeah, it took them a long time, but they finally got back to me. And when they did get back to me, mind you, I did all this interviewing in September. They got back to me, like, I want to say maybe beginning or mid-October. And then they told me that my start date wasn't going to be until nearly the end of November, so mid-November. So mind you, I applied and interviewed, I think, with emphasis on I think, I don't have the exact dates, but sometime like at the beginning of September. They didn't actually get me in there for like a physical interview in person until a couple of weeks later, which was a waste of time and money because I didn't do a demo lesson in which I was told to prepare for a demo lesson in case they asked me to do one. What type of unprofessional crap is that? You can't tell me whether I will or won't, but hey, it worked out for me. I bought my stuff. I think I did bring my stuff. Yeah, I bought stuff for a demo lesson anyway, and I bought all my documents, degrees, certificates, everything, just in case they asked for it, which they didn't ask for anything, and they probably were shocked, like, why did she bring this big bag of crap for? Like, we didn't ask you to bring all of that. But whatever, they never got to see what was inside of it because they didn't ask for anything, so I didn't bother. And they gave me the job anyway, just straight off of my resume, off of what I said, and of course the recruiter's word that she put in for me. So the recruiter also oddly asked me to kind of give a review of the school, like tell me what I thought of them and, the environment, whatever, which I gave them a positive review. I told her that, the school staff was nice, etc., which they were. Everything came off nice. He noticed that I had on, cool Jordan shoes, which really they're not. They're LeBrons, which I think they are Jordans. So you get what I'm saying. Like, well, Jordan style shoes by Nike, but they're LeBron James shoes. But anyway, I get a lot of compliments on those purple shoes. I've shared the picture of them on Instagram. I still wear them to this day. They're my favorite. I've had them now for an entire year. And I got them on clearance for only like $70. And I get way more compliments on those than I do my $200 Jordan shoes. But anyway, so I wasn't going to start for another month. So now at this point, I'm going 3 months without any money, no pay, no nothing. And so I was kind of pissed off, but I was like, okay, like I'm happy, like at least I'm going to be starting this job. So I'm prepared to go to work. And the day of, everything just turns to complete crap. I completely forget that I needed to get myself a pair of tan pants to wear to work. And so I think to myself, like, okay, I might not have tan pants, but forget it. I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to, bring my pair of black jeans and I'll just change once I get there. Well, big mistake on my end. I accidentally forget to bring my change of pants, believe it or not. So now I'm like, oh my God, you've got to be kidding me. No. I knew to bring my change of pants. I did bring my change of pants. I'm sorry. I bought my jeans. What I forgot was my uniform shirt because they gave me I'm missing something. I missed something. See, I'm sorry. That's why I needed to write down a script. Let me bring you back. So I knew my start date was coming up, but they didn't tell me the exact date yet. So we're going way back to after the interview. So after the interview, once they give me the job offer, they asked me if I can come in, to do some paperwork basically, because they wanted to, have me, see the contract, etc. I get there and I'm thinking, okay, they're going to have me sign the contract, explain my pay, explain everything goes, do the paperwork, etc. Do you know that once I got there, they literally wanted me to see the contract, but not sign it. Not take it home, not take a picture of it, nothing, just to see the contract. You wasted my damn time. I literally have already been here before. You had me come back here for something that you could have emailed me about. You already told me that you gave me the job. Why do I need to come here in person to not sign the contract just to see it? And he literally clowned me for signing it because while he was out of the room, like he needed to go away for a second when I came back the second time to meet, I had signed the contract, just thinking ahead, like, okay, like I have a pen in my pocket. He gave me the contract. I've never been given a contract and then told not to sign it now. And, not later either, but, next month. Like, what? And it had my name and everything on it. So it's not like this is some type of spare contract where they're just showing it to me as a sample. It had my salary on it. It had my hours on it. It had the rules, everything specifically for me. And so when he came back, he literally laughed. He was like, oh, like, you're not supposed to sign this yet. It's for next month. So he kept like kind of bringing it up as a joke. And I was not laughing. I was just like still face staring at him like, okay. And I'm thinking to myself, like, I really want to say something so bad, but I'm not going to. I'm going to leave it alone. Whatever. I've never, not even in Japan, this has ever happened to me before. So anyway, I leave that day. And of course, I don't start. I'm not asked to start the next week, not the next day. They asked me to start the next month. So now I've done my interviews in September. I go up there a month later in October, not to sign the contract, just to see the contract. Waste of time, waste of money, wish they told me that in advance. And then I come back a month later to start. So on my first day, that's where I was getting ahead of myself. I didn't really forget, but like I didn't make the time to go out and get myself the pants they asked me to get, which I should have done. But I was honestly trying to save money and not spend stuff that I didn't have. So yeah, and then I did forget to bring my uniform shirt, which they had given me from the day before. They gave me one shirt because it's all they had on hand. They wanted to get more shirts in stock to make sure, they were my size and what I wanted, etc. So that was fine, didn't really care, but I accidentally left my uniform shirt at home. So if it wasn't bad enough that I didn't have the appropriate pants, now I was in a position where I didn't even have a shirt to wear. And mind you, that I was pretty much coming to work wearing a tank top and just a jacket over it because my plan was to take off the jacket, put on my uniform shirt like how I did at my previous job. Well, I got super lucky because this is one thing that I will give them props on. The staff there was super, super friendly, super, super helpful, and very, very nice to me overall, while there were some people that were not. So I'm going to backtrack and talk about the staff a little bit too, but to talk to you about that. So when I got there, there was, when I went to the locker room, there was this white girl there, and I don't remember her name. We're going to call her Annie. Annie was super, super nice. So she kind of gave me a spot to put my shoes in, gave me a spot to put, my belongings in. And I got there almost an hour early. So the principal, I don't even think he was there yet. And they weren't really ready for me, which was fine because I literally just wanted to get to know everybody and put my stuff away. So everyone was super, super sweet to me. And she actually let me borrow her uniform shirt. She gave me her own, she let me borrow her personal cup, which I really shouldn't have done that, but I was thirsty and I needed it. So she gave me her cup that I could use to, get water out of. She was like, do you have a water bottle? And I was like, I didn't even think about that. She was, oh, you need a water bottle. So she gave me one of her spare bottles, and she was even going to let me wear her pants, but I know my hips are too wide, even though we were about the same weight. So I didn't even bother with it. She was a white girl from the US. I think she was from, I won't say her state. She was from the East Coast, but it was in New York. But anyway, within that region. So anyway, Annie was very, very nice to me. She was going to give me literally her whole spare uniform. So we hit it off. She was very nice to me. She cared about me throughout the day. She asked me how things were going throughout the day. Super, super sweet. But before we get to that, I want to kind of backtrack a little bit. So if I recall, Annie is actually one of the girls that I met the first day not the first day, but the day that I came to sign the contract. So the only good thing is after I signed the contract, for the second time, because he kind of did it the first time too, if I recall, they gave me a more formal tour of the school. And at this point, everybody had already, knew me. And they knew me by my actual name. And so he didn't want to call me, my real name. He wanted to call me Ren. So I was like, okay, well, whatever. So then everybody had to relearn my name because they were used to calling me my name. So anyway, that was a little bit awkward and weird, but I didn't really care too much. But it was really strange because, again, the very first time that I came there for the interview when I had the first tour, the staff did not come off as seeming that nice when I saw them, but I just briefly walked through. But now this time, the second time around, he actually had me walk up to them and introduced me to them, and it was really awkward, really weird. So one of the things that really rubbed me the wrong way was when I went to this one classroom with the younger kids. It was this white girl, and we're going to call her Haley. I'm going to start forgetting these names. So Haley was this girl with this long red hair, and he called her out of the classroom and called her over just so that she could say hi to me. And this is the principal / owner of the school. She literally said, what do you want? What's going on? And so the principal was like all like beta male-ish and was like, oh, like nothing, like I'm just introducing her to everybody. She's gonna be a new teacher here. So she's like, oh, okay. And she just like went back in the classroom, and I'm like, okay, red flag. Clearly the teachers don't seem to be happy here. Like they're not even, trying to be phony and put on a show for me as the new teacher, which it really rubbed me the wrong way because it made me feel uncomfortable and unwanted. But I was like, okay, maybe she's just having a bad day. I don't care. I already dealt with that crap working at my last job with white people, but we ain't finna go there. So anyway, yeah, when he showed me like the next class, that's when I ran into Annie for the first time. And she like made her, Trump joke or whatever, was talking about how Japanese people, call playing cards Trump cards. So like we laughed about that for a moment. But in the back of my mind, I did kind of find a little interesting, like how people always assume that if you're Black, then you have to be a liberal, which I'm not, but I'm also not a conservative either. So I just thought that was interesting. Like what if I was a Trump supporter? But anyway, so yeah, off of that. So she was the only person that like, one of the only people that gave me a good impression. There was this other Black girl, though, who I didn't know where she was from at first. So at the time, I thought that she was, African and from some African country, wasn't sure where, or maybe from the Caribbean. She was super, super sweet to me, very, very nice to me. And she treated me like I was her best friend. Like the moment she met me, she was like, oh, like, welcome, blah, blah, blah. And, was excited to have me start working there. Like it seemed genuine. If I didn't know any better, I would have thought she was like a manager or something at the school. So yeah, so she rubbed me the right way. And then there was another Black girl who did not, though, and I ended up being wrong about her later. But when I met her, like I couldn't hear what she was saying and I was looking kind of crazy because like I wasn't expecting to get a tour around the school. I thought I was just going to come there to sign the contract, and I didn't sign the contract, but I did get a tour of the school, which they didn't tell me they were going to do that part, and I didn't really need it. But anyway, yeah, like she didn't seem very nice. It seemed like she was kind of like, oh, another Black person type thing. And like, this was going to be a really weird environment because I've never worked anywhere with a Black man before where there was also 2 Black girls. The only time I ever worked with a Black guy was when he was married to a Japanese woman, and it was at an eikaiwa. But I've never seen a Black guy like at an international school, especially not a Black American. And in this case, there were going to be, now 4 Black people once they throw me in. And I was hired at this point. I just hadn't started working yet. So anyway, with the other staff, like the other white staff, and I swear, like, I'm sorry for my white subscribers, I promise you it's not inside my mind. They did not like me for whatever reason. Like they did not talk to me. They were very like passive, nonchalant, didn't acknowledge me. And it was literally like, oh, my boss is here. I have to say hi to her. Hey, what's up? And like just going about their day. Like didn't even try to be phony. So that didn't rub me right, but whatever. I left there, and it, like I said, didn't leave a good taste in my mouth because he was trying to like get me to see if I knew of anybody else. He mentioned it again, like, hey, if you know anyone, let them know we're hiring. We still need more teachers. So apparently they were having trouble getting interviews during this time. I was the only person to interview for this position. Apparently I was the only person to get hired. I was the only person that, was actually qualified for the job, because while Kids Dual hires anyone, you do have to obviously meet the expectations or standards in order to get visa sponsorship. They can't just hire anyone, but you get what I'm saying. It's not a competitive company to work for. They will hire anybody, but you have to meet the minimum requirements for immigration in Japan. So anyway, moving on. Sorry, I have to talk fast because the story is so long. There's so much detail to it. So yeah, let's catch up the pace. So after like Annie, gives me her uniform shirt, I decline the pants. She shows me like where I can store my food and stuff if and when I get some stuff. And so I barely had any money. Like I literally, just had money like for my lunch and stuff. And that was my mistake. I literally had to borrow money like from my mom just to like get by. I needed $100 because with my card, I don't know if all foreign cards are this way, but with my card, I can only withdraw money in increments of 100. So if there isn't exactly $100 on my card, I can't withdraw money. So that was a monkey wrench. I wasn't expecting that. So I literally could only use my card, to make purchases. So I had to, use my card to buy myself lunch later on that day. And it put me in a position where I wasn't going to have any money, basically. So I'm kind of like in a weird like training like phase. So before the day got started, they were like having me do paperwork and explaining, how the procedure goes at working there, what their rules are, everything else. And I was kind of like switching back and forth between them talking to me and me actually being in the classroom and observing and taking notes, etc. So anyway, they had this guy that was over it, and he was gay. And the reason why I mention this is that I hate when people like do this. It was very obvious that apparently he mistook my niceness for me liking him. And I'm thinking like, I don't like you. Like, I'm just nice to everybody. Like, please stop. He kept like trying to emphasizing the fact that he had, a boyfriend, he was in a relationship. And I'm thinking like, okay, like, nigga, so am I. Like, okay, what are we getting in here? So he did ultimately seem nice, but at moments he seemed a little bit, I don't know, like questionable. I couldn't tell if he really liked me or not. Because to be honest, at first it came off as being kind of rude, but it was like, as we spoke more to each other, he seemed to have been pretty nice. But yeah, like, I just thought that one part was kind of weird. I'm thinking like, you don't have to tell me, because I wouldn't have been interested even if you were straight. But that's not the purpose in this video. It was just another detail to mention about some awkwardness with the white staff. So anyway, him and the principal tell me that they're going to be having a meeting in about 30 minutes, in which they kind of all stand around in a circle, which is stupid. Apparently they do this once or twice a week, in which the staff, we're all going to, they're going to have all the new staff introduce themselves. So I'm like, oh, all the new staff. I thought it was just me. So apparently they hired 2 new Japanese assistant teachers as well. So they had all of us kind of like, we introduced ourselves, said where we were from, just little stuff, whatever. And I kind of like told my background, like education wise, that I lived in Tokyo, etc. So I didn't want to like be cocky or whatever, but I didn't really know what to say. I was like, do I just say, hi, nice to meet you. I'm Ren, like, I'm from Chicago. Hi. Like, I don't know what to say in this situation. I wasn't prepared. So anyway, yeah. So I did talk to the Black guy that, played a part in helping hire me. He just, said hi, but there was no like real conversation after that. So after the little meeting thing, I go back into this classroom. And so it's me with I don't know what to call him, but the guy that was gay, we're going to call him John. Okay. So me and John, we go back to the room, and he's kind of like training me, so to speak. So I'm kind of like switching between him and Kaname are basically helping me. So Kaname is the principal. So we're doing paperwork, and as we're going through that, we get to a part where they need me to have my Jumin Ho, which is basically a certificate that, says where you live and or where you moved from, and it has your My Number, card information on it. Well, I actually did recently have one, but I didn't at the moment. And I literally had like no money to my name. So it wasn't possible for me to do that. And their hours were where they were only open and available, during times in which I would now be working. And so this was my fault. I really should have gotten this handled before I started working, because I literally had like 2 months to get this together. But I didn't. And I also needed to have my pension book, which I knew I had one, but I didn't know where I put it. So in order to get that pension book, that's why I needed the, Jumin Ho situation. So I didn't have either at the moment. And I didn't have my number card. I had an outdated one, but I wasn't sure if the number was still the same. And I had been told mixed up. I had been told that the My Number card, the number changes. And I've been told that it doesn't. So we'll get to that stuff later. So I could tell he was kind of pissed off with that, but whatever. He was like, oh, we'll have to handle it later. Nothing we can do about it right now. But he got all my other information. He took my, passport. He took my residence card. He took my bank book information, which that part did make me happy, because normally in Japan, you have to open up a brand new bank account with every company that you work for, which is really annoying. So they didn't play that petty, cheap crap at me. So I'll give them props for that. I won't argue with that. But yeah, I was going to be their test dummy, because due to the coronavirus, they weren't going to have me go to Tokyo for basically a paid for business trip, in which I would be doing my training, like how most people doing, kids do have done, where they normally send you to like Yokohama basically, and you do some training there. They pay for your transportation, put you inside of a little cheap business hotel. And he was too happy about that part. He was like openly telling me, yeah, like it's good that we don't have to do that, and talking about how it's a waste of money and the expenses, blah, blah, blah. And I'm thinking to myself, like, the only reason why I didn't want to do it right now is because A, the coronavirus, and 2, I don't have money. But why would you say that to me openly as an employer, that you're basically a cheapskate? But whatever. So I didn't care about it. But back on subject. So they were going to have me do a mix of some online training, as well as a mixture of them, kind of conducting the training themselves with teachers that had only been working for the school for less than a year, because the school had just opened, and all of the teachers were basically new to that school, to my knowledge. I don't think they had any teachers from another KDI move over. Rather, they were all just, freshly hired. So anyway, during one portion of the day, I was kind of moved over to like, they had a toddler-like class, and that's where the teacher, the girl that she wasn't from Jamaica. She was actually from Ireland. And so I was completely wrong. And I found that out after talking to her. We are going to call her, let me think of a name. Gosh, we're going to call her Michelle. So Michelle, Michelle was actually from Ireland, and I really liked her accent. But back on subject, she was super, super sweet to me. She treated me like grandmotherly, like, and it was so weird. Like, I even told her, I was like, you literally remind me of myself. She went out of her way to make everything as easy and comfortable for me as possible, because one of the things was during this training, they had a bunch of things that you had to like remember by the end of the day, and they claimed that, you know, they weren't going to judge you for it, whatever. But it's like, then why am I doing this thing? And you never know what they're really thinking. So I'm like freaking out the whole day. I'm like, oh my God, like I have to remember 5 kids' names by the end of the day. I have to remember what the steps and processes are for these different things, etc. And then it was kind of like a mix of, do I help? Do I not help? What am I supposed to be doing? What are they looking for? I don't know. She made everything super simple for me and was so, so sweet to me. Like, Michelle was just the absolute nicest to me. So that was a Black girl that I met the first day that was super, super nice to me and was really welcoming. That was her true like personality. And I forgot to mention, but after I introduced myself during the morning meeting, the Black girl that was actually, you know, she was from the Midwest like me. I was completely wrong. I thought she didn't like me from that first day, but maybe she does hate me now. But she was super, super nice to me. She came up to me after the meeting and was like, hey, like, I'm from the Midwest too. And, you know, she was talking to me and was happy to meet me and seemed like she wanted to hang out with me. So I was wrong about her, and that made me feel good. So I was happy that the staff for the most part seemed nice. But anyway, so yeah, once lunchtime came around, Michelle, she like asked me if, you know, if I wanted to go out with her. So we just went to the convenience store together. Like, she showed me where it was, because I think I asked for it. She's like, oh, you know, I need to go there too. So after we left there, we sat and like had lunch together, ate and talked. But it was very obvious that, like I said, once again, I don't know what that was all about, but none of the white staff had any interest in talking to me or her. And it was more noticeable, I think, from me because I was new there. I would think that at a default, since I'm the new girl, you would try to pretend to be nice to me. But no, they paid me no mind. And I'm not saying that because somebody's new, you have to kiss butt and everybody run up to you. But even at my last job, like, I'm Black, I'm always going to be a minority. I would expect you to at least acknowledge me, say, hey, like, you know, what's your name? How are you? Whatever. How's your day going so far? Nope, nothing. Everyone like completely tuned me out. It was like I was a ghost or something. So it really didn't make me feel good. I felt really uncomfortable about that. But anyway, yeah. So that part was weird. And then at one point, you know, she had to leave and go back. And so I was by myself. And so, yeah, even while I was there by myself, no longer talking, nobody speaks to me, nobody looks at me. People even put their headphones in. Like, it's just, you are not here. And mind you that we're all grown. I'm the youngest person there. So I just thought it was really weird, not very team environment, work friendly type place, whatever. But I was like, okay, whatever. Everybody racist, everybody in a bad mood, whatever you got going on for you, I don't care. I'm here to get paid at the end of the day. And so that was the other thing too. Like, I was accepting getting paid less at this company. But again, I didn't have a choice at the time. I needed a job. I was behind on my rent. I needed to, you know, do what I had to do basically. So I didn't care. And yeah. So after my lunch break was over and I, you know, went back, I had some time to kind of like fill out. It was a bunch of writing, bunch of drawing pictures of what you're supposed to do for this stuff. And it's like, how would I know what steps were being taken to handle these procedures throughout the day when the staff doesn't even follow these rules exactly? And on top of that, there was a lot for you to read. So pretty much you're literally blindly going into your day, not knowing what you're looking for. And if you spend too much time flipping through the packet trying to see what you should be looking for throughout the day, then you're missing what's actually going on. And then it's not possible for you to read everything either within the time frame that they gave me. So I don't know. Of course, this is just day one. So, but again, they did have a set amount of stuff they wanted me to finish by the end of that day. So anyway, me and Michelle hit it off. We were like best friends by the end of the day. I even told her she reminded me of myself, and she was really flattered by it. And I really, really liked her. And I really regret not getting her contact information because I would love to be a friend. I'm probably going to look for her on my own after making this video, by the way. But anyway, so yeah, once I go like further throughout my day, I confide in the guy, John, the one that was gay. I tell him about my financial situation. I tell him, like, you know, do you know if they do pay advances here? Because like, I really hate to say this to you, it's personal, but I don't have enough money, like, you know, to get back and forth. And so I jokingly said to him, like, you know, I guess you'll see me tomorrow, like, if they give me a pay advance. And I hated to be ghetto like that, but I was just being real. I've gotten a pay advance from another employer before, and at my first job that I ever had here, they handled my transportation on my first day of work to make sure that, you know, I had enough money to get to and from work. So I didn't think it was anything fancy to ask a huge chain school to do the same thing. But I didn't feel comfortable asking yet. And so I decided to wait until the end of the day. So the whole day goes by, and I literally get to interact with all of the staff. There's lots of little pieces in between. For example, the rude chick that I spoke to, I forgot what name I even gave her. The rude girl with the long red hair that I spoke to that, was just like, what do you want, basically? Like, oh, like, she was thinking I was probably like a prospective parent, which that's the part that rubbed me the wrong way. I forgot to say that. Like, you don't know who I am. What if I'm trying to enroll my student in this school and you just seem really nonchalant, like you don't want to be here, pissed off that you have to step outside the classroom to talk to me. And I didn't ask you to do it. Your boss did. So, okay, that was really weird, but whatever. Anyway, she warmed up and seemed nice to me they had like a gym session where they were preparing for sports day, which was really weird. Sports day had already taken place literally everywhere in Japan a month ago, and they're just now doing theirs. So anyway, like I participated in all of their little warm-ups. I tried to help encourage the baby kids to do what they're supposed to be doing. And yeah, like she spoke to me and she was acting, kind of nice to me during this time. She was actually speaking to me. So I realized that, oh, that's the thing. She had all of her students talk to me. So that shocked me. She introduced all of her students to me and told them that I was the new teacher and saying that, they better be good for me, etc. And so her students spoke to me too. And that made me really happy. And the kids, because there were so many like Black teachers there, they were like super comfortable. They weren't like weirded out and like, oh my God, like, a dark skinned teacher. Like it was totally normal. Like, so anyway, those are just little things I want to throw in. So, where was I going to go? So yeah, like she cleared all of the people that I thought were rude had like cleared the air at me for the most part, with the exception of the white guys. Like all of the white guys collectively did not like me, except for the one like gay guy, John. He was the only person that was nice to me. All of the other white staff was awful. Then there was one guy who I can't remember them again because it all became a blur. Everybody had blonde hair. At the end of the day, because like they started having me like go different places to meet people, at the end of the day, I came across this guy who was going to show me where a classroom was that I couldn't find, but then I got called away to go meet with someone else. So he almost helped me. So I did thank him for volunteering to help me find a room that I couldn't find. But again, like at the end of the day, he didn't get to do that. So he kind of redeemed himself, whoever that person was, but nobody else spoke to me. And there were several teachers at this school. So anyway, at the end of the day, you have to basically help clean and help prepare for the next day. And I was constantly reminded during my time talking to John, this is one of the like weird things that came up, two of the weird things. We were specifically told that they wanted you to kind of like practice writing like notes. They have like journals that they do for each student. Very common in Japan. The US does it too, I believe, but here it's on a whole nother level. You're supposed to kind of write a little memo about what the student did for the day and how they were in class. Normally, it depends on the school. Some schools do it by the day or by the end of the week. I think for the school, they do it per week. So the problem though was, unlike other places that I had been at, the goal was for you to only write positive things. You're not allowed to write critical things. So for example, if you had a troubled student that was being bad in your class, you're not going to write, well, everything pretty much went well this week, but little John, he couldn't stop hitting Sarah. So we're working on that in class. No. Instead, you need to focus on the good things that little John did. Little John stood very nicely in line this week, something like that. And then if something is continuously a problem, then you can consider talking to the parent, face to face, but they don't want you to put that inside the journal. And really, obviously, you're not going to talk to them about it in person either. So it's like, okay, like, what's the purpose in the journal if everything, we went on much further talking about this, might I add. I'm making it short for this video, but what's the purpose in having a journal if your goal is just to lie to the parents about how their day or week was? Why write inside of it then? And so the excuse is basically given, we don't want to discourage parents, from having their kid go here. We want to be positive, encouraging. And it's like, as a parent, if my kid is bad and beating on other kids, or if they're being bullied, I want to know. I don't want that to be a secret, but you can't do that at the school. So keep that in mind. The second thing was they had a trust issue with the staff. So you were not allowed to take home. They had like a training, like a teacher training book. You weren't allowed to take home that book. And it's like, I'm supposed to use this book to fill out they had a huge packet that you needed to complete by the end of your training. I can't take home the booklet that has not literally the answers, but it's essentially the study guide. And it's also kind of like the blueprint for how they run their school, how to teach, how to manage the classroom, things like that. And so it's like, part of me understands it, but it's like, if it's that secretive, Why even give us a book to begin? Why even let us see it? You might as well just have it where you do a PowerPoint or have somebody explain the book to us. If you don't trust your staff that much, why are we even being shown the book? Why are we taking it home? What's the purpose in it? I just thought it was really weird. So, out of respect, I kept it at the school, kept it inside my locker. But at the very end of the day, after I was done cleaning, done doing all of my written work, and I stayed for a while because I wanted to touch up my hair and everything, I finally got a chance to talk to the principal because he was busy talking to literally everybody and their mama. And I tried to speak to him, and I pulled him aside from everyone. And I explained to him that, I really didn't have any money, and I asked if he could give me, a pay advance to cover my transportation. And he lost it. He tried to be professional and nice at first. He was like, "You don't have any money? Like, what do you mean?" He's like, "No, like, try to do it the Japanese way. They won't directly just say no, flat out say no to you." So instead, he gave me the runaround. So he tells me that, they don't do that. They can't do that. He's like, kind of like, I don't really want to say no, but I'm not going to say yes because I know my answer is no. And so I'll explain what it looked like. I literally cannot get home. Like, I need a pay advance, which was true. I didn't even have enough money to get home, let alone to come back the next day. And again, let me make it clear, that is my fault. But let's continue the story. So he takes me to the office and he pretends like he's going to give me this pay advance. But instead, when we go to the office, he brings up the incident, I didn't get you my number card, information again. How are we going to go about that? But then he tells me that he found out, he got it confirmed that, they don't need to have a new my number card, that your number stays the same. So as long as I have something with the number on it, I'm good to go. Okay, so I give him that and I sign a form. And then after I do that, he asks me, how much money do I need? And so I asked for the bare minimum just to get there and back, which was basically $10 or 1,000 yen. And so instead of him just giving me the money, he literally asked all of the office staff, he tells them my situation, that I don't have any money and that I'm asking for a pay advance and what he should do about it. And they literally laugh at me, including him. They laugh out loud at me. And he even says, like, basically this is my problem, that, it's a personal issue, whatever. And so instead of, giving me the money, like how he just act like he was going to, he's like, well, don't you have a boyfriend? Can't your boyfriend give you money? And I'm thinking to myself, like, my boyfriend is not my employer. I'm asking you. And mind you, for those of you that don't know, during this time, I was not talking to him. We got into it. And I talked about that in a video already before. Not going to revisit that. But I'm thinking to myself, like, okay, let's say I'm married. What does my partner's finance have to do with me working for you? Not to mention that my request was not taboo. It's very common for employers here to actually pay for your transportation as soon as you start working because they want to save money. By covering your transportation and giving you, a 6-month pass, they're going to save, a few hundred yen over time, which is worth it to them. And I forgot to mention this part. Another thing that he mentioned on my first day when I came there without having, my pension book and personal information that he needed, which again, that was my fault for not doing that, but I didn't have the money to. That was my other red flag. He asked me how much did it cost to get to and from work, which he should have already known this before he hired me. But then he also seemed a little bit upset that I didn't already have a monthly pass. Because when he asked me how did I get there, since, I, didn't have a monthly pass and I paid for it out of my pocket one way, he seemed shocked. Like, you bought an individual ticket? Like, why didn't you get a monthly pass? Well, gee, sorry, I don't have $600 sitting in my pocket waiting to be wasted on train fare when I've been out of work for months. What? I waited months to start this job. And so I had to explain that to him too, like when he was telling me about the whole thing, oh, don't you have a boyfriend? And I'm like, I wasn't expecting to have to wait an additional 2 months to start. And I figured that I would at least be able to get my transportation covered. I'm not asking you for extra money to live off of or to pay my rent. I'm just asking for enough money to get to and from work. And so if that wasn't bad enough, I pulled him aside to make the conversation private, which he violated that by taking me into the office and not only talking to me in front of everyone, but he brought them into the conversation by asking them what he should do about it. Then he I don't even know what the word to use, but he humiliated me further by asking me, how much I needed and ensuring, that I paid this back, whatever. And so of course I'm agreeing to it all then, but I knew right then in the back of my mind, I'm like, I'm not coming back after this. So I literally went around, I took my name, the label off of everything. I left the instruction manual there, like how I said, and I felt really bad because the girl whose stuff I borrowed, she had already left for the day. And so I was like, like I really would have liked to have taken home her cup and shirt to wash and clean it, but I don't even want to come back here. And I'm not going to have the money to come back here at this point, because now with the $10 that you gave me, I have enough money to get back and to get here again. But I can't come back here and go through the same thing again, because he pretty much told me I needed to work something out, so that I can get back the next day. So he pretty much confirmed that he wasn't going to be giving me an advance, wasn't going to be, paying for my transportation per day either. So I'm like, I can't end up stranded here. So I didn't just, bail out and say I'm not coming back after that. I knew I wasn't going to, but I thought it was really weird. So during my time while I'm like grabbing my stuff, there was this Japanese woman who I could have swore she was watching me like I was trying to steal something. She was watching me as I was grabbing my shoes. It's when she was watching me as I was taking the label off. So I literally got to the point where I just stared back at her like, the fuck are you looking at? So eventually she stopped looking and went inside the office. But I'm pretty sure she was like spying on me to see what was going on. So it was really embarrassing, you guys, because it was literally like 6 office staff that he had introduced me to as being their new teacher, and then clown me in front of them for being in need of money. So I'm like, okay, like you are aware that that's why everybody here is working for you, right? So I'm not even going to go into detail about the teachers that work there, because like I said, they were really nice to me and my anger is not towards them, but I learned a lot about their stories for why they ended up working there too. Some of them are actually stranded in Japan where they can't go back to their home country, kind of stuck here, kind of wanted to explore and visit around Japan, etc. So my anger and feelings are not towards them, even although, like I said, the white staff there did seem really rude and racist to me. But that's another story. It's really just towards the owner of the school. So this is where things get interesting. When I get home, I talk to my mom and I'm trying to figure out, like, what am I going to do? Like, do I not show up for work? Do I tell them I'm not going to show up? How do I handle it? So we had already exchanged line. And so I sent him a message, kind of confirming what happened earlier. And I tell him, like, I really do not have, money to, get back and forth to work, where there's no way for me to do it. Like, it's not possible for you to give me anything, for transportation. Like, I'm not going to have anything. I was expecting to be able to at least get my transportation covered, because I'm not going to get paid until a month from now. And, it's costing me X amount of dollars. And the payday wasn't going to be until Christmas. So I was going to have to wait more than a month after when I had started working. Because the pay period, they purposefully had me start in the middle of the month so that they wouldn't be giving me my paycheck until the end of the following month. That's another scam that Japanese companies do, but that's another story. So anyway, instead of him being sympathetic and trying to understand me, he was like, so are you saying that, you really can't come back to work? Like, I'm really disappointed, basically. And so I'm thinking, like, after everything you just said to me, you humiliated me and clowned me in front of all of my coworkers. Then on top of that, if that's not enough, you belittled me, basically, my situation. I don't even know the word to use for it. You made my situation seem insignificant, basically. Like, you're not worried about, me having food, me having a roof over my head, nothing else. Even although I'm teaching and working for your school, even although you're in a position where you have no other staff, you are just begging on your knees for me to find you teachers to work for your company. You would rather lose me as a teacher, have a bad name and word put out there for both you and your school, than to just do the right thing and give me a small pay advance. It's not even a pay advance where it's giving me cash in my pocket. I'm asking for you to give me a train pass, which this is common practice in Japan. So maybe this company doesn't do it. I know not all franchises do it, but I'm just asking to make an exception to the rule for this 1 month for me. I've been months without working. There's a pandemic going on. You should be understanding towards my situation. But nope, for him, it was like, I can't do this because we don't do this for other people. It was we're playing by the rules type situation. My last job that saved my life a couple of years ago, they didn't even do that. When I asked them for a pay advance, which I literally just wanted a pay advance for transportation, they gave me enough money to pay my rent, to eat off of, and everything. And you want to know what my boss did afterwards? After he pulled the money out of his own wallet, after he did that, he also added on to it by additionally saying, if you need more, come back to me. I didn't even have to ask. So I'm not asking for him to play Good Samaritan and do that part of it. I'm just asking you to give me money for transportation and get back and forth to work. If I were in the US, it would sound really weird. But again, in Japan, common practice, normal thing for an employer to do. It's one thing to say, this is not our policy. We don't do this. I'm sorry, but I can't. It's another thing to say that and then be like, well, what about your boyfriend? And then tell all the staff, what do you think I should do about this? Yeah, she's grown. She doesn't have money to get back and forth to work. What? That's unprofessional, disrespectful, and rude. And then it was even funnier. You thought I was still going to work for you after all of that? And so, of course, I was dumb enough to do it because I needed the job. I was going to quit anyway. But I was planning to at least, stay until I found another job during the springtime. So anyway, yeah, after I said that, he was, he just told me he was disappointed, about that, whatever. And so I explained to him, I was like, I literally cannot get to work. Like, I'm not trying to waste your time. But in his mind, all he saw it as was, we wasted 3 months down the drain, all this paperwork, all this whatever, just for you to quit. Well, lo and behold, this is where things get complicated. So over a month later, after, my start date, after Christmas, which is the day I'm supposed to get paid, do you know that they didn't even pay me for the day of work that I did? And mind you, I didn't just sit there and fill out paperwork. I was actually working. They had me assisting, like a Japanese assistant teacher. And now that I think about that too, the assistants there were not very nice at all. Like, they were very anal. Like, for example, I had my hair down. She snitched on me for not having my hair back in a ponytail. I had earrings. She asked me to remove my earrings. Like, they were really particular about everything. Like, they were really big on the rules. And it was one of those schools where you weren't really in charge of the classroom, but it was really the Japanese teachers micromanaging you. So they weren't really assistant teachers, like how they try to make it seem like. So that didn't rub me the right way. But the good thing is, I would have been teaching more than likely older kids and not nursery level kids, like how this girl Michelle was. So, but I was in Michelle's room for pretty much the whole day. And the goal for the school is they have you switch around to working with different teachers in different classrooms. So I guess that it's possible for you to switch to other classrooms if, there's not a teacher there, and kind of for you to get an idea of what the school is like. So I won't lie, I do like their system. And overall, the school, like the students seem to have been, responsible, mature, nice for the most part. They're not the best English speakers, and the staff environment, while some of them are really nice, the vast majority of them were very, very rude. I just got lucky and I was stuck for that week. I was going to be working with the really nice people, so that would have worked in my favor. I will not bash them. And again, my complaint isn't really towards the environment of the school itself, but rather how it was managed. So anyway, after he decides he's not going to pay me, I, contact the recruiter that, basically got me the job. So I explained to her what happened and why, I left working for them. And so I tell her that, I really don't want to, get this, drag in like legal crap, etc. I really just want to be paid for the one day of work that I did. And he can deduct, the money that I owe for the shirts that I have, as well as, for the $10 that he gave me, whatever. That's not going to come to, over $100, which they definitely would have owed me like $125+ or whatever for my one day of work. So at first she tried to play it off as, oh, you really need to contact, the school, whatever. We don't handle that, whatever type thing. And I'm like, okay, well, I would rather not contact him because the last time we spoke, things didn't go all that well. So she's like, oh, well, I'm going to forward your message to him. And she claims she sent him a message too. So about a week goes by, or 2 weeks, and I hear nothing from them. So I messaged her again. I apologize for sending her another message. And I'm like, haven't heard back from him, whatever. And so she's like, did you send him a message? And I'm like, no, I explained to you that I didn't want to do that because the last time that we spoke, it didn't go well. He has my contact information. And like you said, didn't you also send him a message? So if you send him a message, he knows that I'm waiting to receive money. Did he not say anything to you then, basically? So she never answered my question. And so instead, she tried to play the mind game of then saying, she took that back and was saying that basically he's probably not going to pay me because he probably had to, use that money for that one day of work to cover things like my health insurance and pension, etc. So if anything, I probably owe him money. And if that is not the biggest effing piece of I've ever heard. And so don't get me wrong, I do understand that those things would definitely become more than that, but it's not based on a monthly basis, based on how much you've worked. I only did one day of work for them. I've worked other jobs before. That's not the way that pension works. That's not the way that health insurance works. I didn't even get a health insurance card. They never had my pension book. So he definitely was not using that money to pay taxes or cover my butt for anything. He simply cheated me out of my money. And I'm glad that I didn't send back the shirts. I literally still have them right here. I have both of them because he wasn't even going to pay me for the work that I did. So that all brings me to the end of this. So I want to wrap it up in a nutshell. I'm not complaining about the school saying that they're not going to give me a pay advance. As I said a million times, but I know somebody's going to be in my comments and take away something different in this video. They are not responsible for my transportation before I've worked for it. I totally understand. But that is not my issue. That is my second issue. My real issue is the way it was handled. You can disagree with what I'm asking for and not be unprofessional and bring it up to all of your staff and try to embarrass and humiliate me, which did work. He almost had me in tears because I was literally at the point where I was just being desperate and trying to get myself home. You don't know my whole situation and my whole story. It was very rude and inappropriate to bring up my relationship, which had nothing to do with that either. I don't care if I was married. My spouse has nothing to do with me. Third, not just that. My other issue is, of course, the fact that they weren't willing to do that. You have so much pride as a school, even although you have no other potential teachers. You've already wasted months, time, everything, and money looking for a teacher, and you got one. You would rather lose me than just pay for my measly transportation, and you're racking in thousands of dollars a month. They had nearly 200 students, you guys. Even if the tuition was only like $400 a month, which is more than that, they'll be making well over $50K a month with their students. There is zero reason whatsoever for why you cannot give me a measly pay advance of $100, $200, whatever. You don't have to give me the cash. Just give me the ticket. My other employer has done that before. Employers with an S, I should actually say. I get it if it's not a normal thing for your company to do, but your circumstances are not normal either. You are in need of me just as much as I was in need of you. And I honestly don't know what's worse, the fact that he was so selfish and stingy that he wasn't willing to do that, or the fact that he was ignorant enough to go ahead and not only tell the staff, but to joke about it and clown me for it. And like I said, I should have already seen like that red flag when he seemed like shocked, like, why would you sign the contract? Like, who the hell shows an employee a contract for them to not sign it? Like, you didn't just show it to me like on a whim. You had me come up to the school, travel an hour away to look at a contract and get another tour through your school again for 5 minutes. What a waste of time. I could have just come to work early the first day then. What was the purpose in that? I've had my contract sent to me by mail. I've had it emailed to me. What is the point in doing it that way? So I'm just so stressed out and so tired of it, but I just want to put that out there. Be careful if you choose to work for this company. They will screw you over. If you do choose to quit, they will not pay you, because it is 100% up to whoever the franchise manager is. Because now that I've worked for them already, Yaruki Switch or whatever, because they're really owned by some sort of like pharmaceutical company. It's some weird money laundering stuff going on. It's a pharmaceutical company that owns Kids Duel, but Kids Duel gets their teachers through the recruiting company, Yaruki whatever Switch, and they kind of act like a mini manager too. So it's a really weird situation. Basically, I think it's their way of breaking up their monopoly to not get in trouble with the government. I don't know if Japan has that same system that the US has. For example, Walgreens pretty much had to break up, and they have, Dwayne, I forgot the name of it, Dwayne something or whatever, Dwayne Reed, or whatever they call their company, where they have it broken up, where it's not all Walgreens, and they can't have all 7 million of their banks. And Chase too, they couldn't have, all of those Chase banks or whatever inside of Walgreens. Like, there's all these little like weird little rules they have for like monopoly like businesses. So I don't know, maybe Japan has that same rule and that's why they do that. I have no idea what that's all about. Maybe it's save money on taxes. I don't know what it is, but whatever the situation is, that's the way that they handle it. They tried to treat it like I was working for a completely separate company and that they couldn't play any role in it now that I got the job. So you guys can choose who they hire. You can set me up with start dates, interviews, everything, but you have no control over whether or not I get paid. You won't get involved. You won't contact them for me, nothing. It's all on me. So at the end of the day, like I said, don't get me wrong. I'm not going to totally say that the school is awful and that I wouldn't recommend working for them, because to be honest, the environment seemed to have been kind of okay. They ran like a normal international school for the most part, emphasis on for the most part. The biggest downside that I saw on a personal level is you don't have a lot of freedom as a teacher. It seemed like, from what I observed, the Japanese assistant staff pretty much controlled the classroom, and they have a lot of rules for what the teachers can and can't do, where they have more structure to their curriculum than I think normal international schools do, which for some people, this is a good thing. If you don't want to come to work and have to do a lot of lesson planning, it seems like they get a lot of that stuff handled for you on their own. But again, like the really big red flag that I had was I didn't like the Japanese assistant staff being really micromanaging or whatever. And I didn't like the fact that the owner of the school seemed to have been a money-hungry jerk. So again, do not take away from this video that, oh, I'm complaining because they wouldn't give me a pay advance. It's not what they did, it's how they did it. You can say no to somebody without being disrespectful or rude, and degrading to them. And then it was even crazier that before I even asked for it, he was expecting me to walk in there with, already having a train pass. So I kind of already knew he was going to say no. But I figured if I, preached my case to him, like explained my story to him, like helped him understand it, pleaded my case. I said preach. What do you call it? Plead? I'm forgetting English. I figured if I presented my case to him and explained that he'd make an exception for me, I understand that that's why the pay advance is a pay advance. I understand it's not a normal thing for you to do. But my circumstance, just like normally employers don't only have one applicant to choose from. So I'm sure it was also because of your desperation that you didn't have me do a demo lesson. You just wanted to get me hired and start as soon as possible, but you didn't want me to start too soon because you didn't want to have to pay me for months of work without me having my own classroom, I assume. Because really, I should have been started in like October, or at least the beginning of November. They purposefully had me start in the middle of a pay period so they wouldn't have to pay me at the end of November. Because at least if they could have paid me by the end of November, I'm sure I could have like gotten out a loan or done something to like hold me over until then. So yeah, that was like by far the most humiliating, embarrassing experience I ever had. I could never recommend working there. Kids still did me bogus. Yaruki, whatever, Switch, they did me bogus because they had nothing to do with it after I got hired. It was not their problem. And again, it's not like this is some type of like big dispatch company that hires people from other schools. They only work with their own schools. They have like 5 schools that run under different names. It's all the same stupid program. But they act like they had nothing to do with it though once money got involved. And then instead of just admitting that she lied about having contacted him or lied about, trying to help me, she didn't try to brush it off to being, oh, well, you probably owe him money actually. It doesn't matter if I do. I should have the option to pay that money out of my own pocket then. I worked for it. You literally just allowed me to work for you for free. So even if you're not going to give me the pay advance, I did work for you. I wasn't just being trained on a computer, which that's work too, because I'm physically being requested to be somewhere. I arrived early. I stayed late. I cleaned your bathrooms. I cleaned your floors. I did all of that. I even left their booklet. And I only took home the shirts because I wasn't sure if I was really going to quit or not. I didn't know. And I felt really bad because the girl whose shirt I borrowed, I had on makeup. And I didn't like have on like setting spray or anything. And I was hot because I was like rushing to get there or whatever. And I think it was like the heat was on too, like at the school and on the train. And so like my makeup like residue like got off on it. Like I showed you guys, the shirts are white and I'm a black girl. So it literally looked like there was like dookie stain or chocolate stain like around the collar. So I hope that she understood that's what it was. Because otherwise she'd probably be thinking like, this dirty chick got, dirt stains on my shirt, like after just wearing it for one day, like ew. So I hope she washed it. I'm sure she did. But I felt really bad because I wanted to launder it myself. But of course, I didn't expect to, end up quitting that day and not coming back or whatever. So he was upset about me quitting, but wasn't willing to stop me from needing to quit, so to speak. Like I cannot walk 5 hours to get to work to and from for days on end. That's not going to happen. And the pay wasn't that much to begin with, but I was in need of money. So, beggars can't be choosers, basically. I wanted to honor the contract. I wanted to be grateful for the job because it was hard to find a job at the end of the year. But it really made me upset that I turned down the potential to work at other companies. And I stopped applying for other jobs too, because I thought I just knew for sure that I was going to be working there. And I was. But I didn't know that they were going to be not only completely against giving me, a pay advance and completely against giving me, my transportation advance too, but that they were going to become really, disrespectful, rude, whatever. Like, how would they even go show them back up to work the next day after everybody heard all my business, how I don't have money. I apparently can't go to my boyfriend to get money. Like, who want to come back to work after that? Come on, think to yourself. He was genuinely hurt. Like he even messaged me like online, like told me he was really disappointed and that he's surprised, as he said. Like I'm surprised too. Your 40-year-old ass, and he had the nerve. He calls himself liking Black culture and basketball, etc. And so I'm thinking to myself like, okay, you speak English, you like my culture, you like my country, you admire Black athletes, players, whatever. I know that has nothing to do with the situation per se, but I would think, okay, because this person is open-minded, because he's international, whatever, I would think he would be more understanding. Nope, not at all. He was very straightforward to the rules. Like, okay, like you don't have money, like whose problem is to fix it? Like, dude, why do you think I want to work for your company? Like if I had money, I wouldn't be looking for a job. Do the math. And so I'm thinking to myself too, like, do you not realize you saw my resume? You even asked me, How do you think I'm surviving all this time without work? I'm not rich. I'm not pulling money out of my butt. And now this is an extra expense. It's one thing for me to be paying my rent, handling my bills, etc. But getting to and from somewhere on a day-to-day basis, that's totally different. Also, this place, I think, was like $6 or something one way, or close to it. So it's not even like I'm just spending $1 and some change or something per day. I'm spending roughly $12 round trip. So I'm done. Like I said, there's a lot of detail in between about my experiences with dealing with the staff, and I can go on and give like more like little stories throughout the day. But my biggest problems that I had was the management was super rude and disrespectful. 2, if you have an issue, you cannot go to your recruiter. You cannot go to upper management. There's nobody above him that you can talk to. So if the manager of the school you're working for decides they want to fire you, not hire you, whatever, they decide to do you bogus, withhold your money, cheat you out of overtime, you're stuck. You're stuck. You can't do anything. There's no one for you to talk to. There's no one to help you. You have to resolve all of your issues on your own. That's scary. I've never had a company. I tell you guys, I've quit. I've been fired. I've had everything happen before. I've never worked for any company, not a mom and pop shop, not one of the big boys, one of the elite, prestigious schools here. I have never in my life worked for a company, not in the US, not in Japan, that refused to pay me at the end of the day for my work. I didn't even ask to be paid at the end of that day for the work I did. I waited a month for the pay period to pass. And they still wouldn't pay me. I've never experienced that before. They literally got free labor out of me. That's scary. And so I can go into more detail, like I said, about their bogus journal practices, them not wearing gloves when changing these kids' diapers, no hand washing going on, no social distancing, like all of this crap that's not going on inside of their schools. I can go on and on and on and on and on and make a long list of that. But that's not my purpose in this video. I'm strictly sticking to my real issue as a teacher, which was the simple fact that they're bogus. There's no upper management to go to. The manager of the school / principal is rude and disrespectful and condescending. And he doesn't even realize it. And I feel like the people at the school have these titles like to their head type thing, where they feel like they know more than they really do. Like, for example, the guy that was kind of training me, like when I was talking to him, it seemed like he felt like he was an expert on being a teacher. And I'm thinking like, dude, you're not a licensed teacher. Like, I get it, you've been working at this school longer than me, but for starts, I probably doubt you have more teaching experience. He did speak Japanese better than me. I will give him that. I won't argue with that. He even caught me in an embarrassing mistake. I was spelling my name and I forgot one of the characters, which is really embarrassing, but I hadn't wrote my name in a long time. So it's just little things like that. So I thought that there were some weird aspects of the foreign staff there, but that's kind of normal. I don't care. I'm not there to be best friends with everybody. You can hate me, be racist, be jealous of me, whatever, all you want to. That's between you and Jesus. But as the management of the school, I would think you would at least be professional enough to, even if you thought my question or request was completely ridiculous and absurd, you can at least handle it professionally. You can tell me, I'm sorry, but I can't give you a pay advance. Wouldn't be fair to the other staff. We just don't do this here. I'm really, sorry. You can even offer, look, I can't give you a pay advance, but I can pay for your transportation at the end of each day. Sounds good? Okay. Or you can even say, I can give you enough money per week. I can do whatever. But you would think as a teacher of your school, you want to make sure that I'm, being fed, that I have my other things handled. That's what my last job did. The job before that, I didn't even have to ask for a pay advance. They gave me one when I first started. They wanted to make sure that I had my transportation covered because it saves them money in the long run too. So for him to have been such, a cheapskate, as he even said himself, he admitted, I would think he'd want to save that money on transportation, but apparently not. So whatever. Sorry for this long, super long story, but basically, long story short, I wouldn't recommend working for them because it's too iffy, too chancy. Of course, if I never needed a pay advance, I would have never gotten to this point, but I don't like the way that he thinks or manages his company, like just from those few experiences. I can't imagine what it would be like working for them for longer, basically. Because yes, like if you already have it where you have this mindset where you wanted me to have everything done and do everything the way you want it to be done and be able to read your mind, and when you can't do that, it makes you kind of upset. Like, He was upset for me getting there a little bit early. He was upset for me signing the contract. He was upset about me, not having those documents. She didn't ask for them specifically. He did say he wanted me to have the pension book, which I couldn't find that. But because I didn't have it, then it became a domino effect of other things that I needed, which I didn't have. And again, he never really got angry, but it was obvious he was a little bit, pissed off. Like, how do you not have this stuff together? So none of that stuff really rubbed me the right way. And to be honest, the girl that was like training me, Michelle, the black girl that was from Ireland, she was the one who was, a million times nicer to me and treated me better than anybody else there. The guy, John, the white guy that was gay, he was really nice to me too, ultimately in the end. He did come off as a little bit, funky at first, but it seemed like by the time we got towards the end of the day, he was super, super nice to me and real with me. But we did definitely disagree with some things. Like, for example, I know part of it was him just doing his job, as I expressed to him too. I know he's just doing his job. But I didn't like the fact that he was like trying to sell me on their approach of lying to the parents and pretending like the students are good even when they're not. So that, and then of course, like I said, the unsanitary conditions with, I get it, the kids are young, so not wearing masks is understandable. But as the school, like, why are we not washing our hands, and there's no hot water, like between changing students' diapers, etc. So, and even with the Japanese staff, like, it seemed like they were really anal about things being done a very particular way, and if you didn't do it, it's like they wanted to argue with you, whatever. But I wasn't going there with them. I was like, go ahead and get frustrated and upset if you want to. You're making less money than me and taking your job too serious, but whatever. So yeah, like it really just, it hurt me because, like I said, it was really embarrassing. I really was in need of money. It really, hurt me at that time. And I really didn't want to have to make this video, but I felt like it was necessary. So as I've said a million times, it's beyond the pay advance. It's how they handled it. And I felt the management was bad, that they basically excused and acted kind of like they justified me not getting paid by trying to brush it off on, oh, they had to cover these expenses, which they did not. I'm not new to Japan. I've been there for years. I'm dating somebody that's Japanese. That's not the way that it works. I know how Japan works. That's not the way that it goes. That was a garbage excuse to avoid paying me. So whatever. I would have gladly given them back those garbage shirts if I knew that I wasn't, if I knew that was going to stop me from getting paid, which that was an excuse too, because I'm like, I will gladly bring them back to you. But that was the other thing too. I forgot to mention that. The manager was so petty that he also told me, like, after I explained that, I was sorry, but that I couldn't continue working there, he told me not to come back to the school. He said that I can just mail him the $10 that I borrowed. He didn't even want to see me. And so I'm thinking, like, now, if that is not the definition of petty and unprofessional, then I don't know what is. So, yeah, like, it's an awful school. That's all I have to say. So I wouldn't work there. I personally wouldn't put my child in a school like that. Like, I think it's a good place to go if you're just trying to get your visa sponsored and you're trying to get your foot, through the door in Japan, especially if you're a non-native English speaker. Because while they act like they didn't, they definitely do hire non-native English speakers. I would definitely work for the company anyway, but I would not want to work there long term. And I don't like that chancy situation where basically if you choose to quit your job after the pay period, whatever days you work afterwards, your boss can choose to be a jerk and not pay you. And so I knew that kids do. I had a lot of bad reviews before I started working for them, which was a big reason why I never wanted to work for them. After I, of course, graduated and could work anywhere I wanted to, it was never on my list. But I never expected something like that to happen. Like, I saw complaints about like child abuse and, different rules and staff being funny, etc. There's a lot of bad things you can read about the school, but I never saw anything about people not getting paid for the work that they did. And especially since this was just one day of work. And that they have well over the, $80, $70 they probably owed me, because by the time they deduct the cost for the t-shirts, they probably would have owed me maybe like $30 or $40. I don't care if they gave me $10. It was the principle of giving me something for the work that I did. You can deduct the shirts. You can deduct the little measly $10 that you gave me to get, back and forth. I'm not asking for that. I literally just want to be compensated for the work that I did. And if I did owe something over, which I did not, then fine. You can send me a bill telling me what I owe you. But it is not in your court, your jurisdiction, to legally decide whether or not I get paid, basically. That's not the way that it works as an employer. So the whole situation is just so crazy. There's so much more I can go into detail about, and I really didn't want to share this. This is a personal story, whatever, but I want to put that out there. I do not care if they get upset, if they try to sue me, whatever. This video is staying. I will never take it down. So I want to make that very clear. My goal is hey, you're not going to compensate me and pay me for the work that I did, then I hope that I hurt your business by telling people, don't work for this garbage company, don't put your student here. Look at the reviews for this school. You have the reviews speak for itself, just to let you know. There are reviews about teachers touching on students. There are reviews about teachers abusing students, keeping them in closets, etc. There's all type of crazy crap that you can read about working at KDI. So this is not just me. This is not just my bad experience. My experience, you could say, is bought on by myself. I never asked for a pay advance. If I bought my documents, I would have never, if I came to there on time and not early, I would have never experienced that odd side of the management there. But I'm glad that I did. However, for these other teachers, what do you have to say in response to dealing with teachers that are abusing kids? In my situation, what do you have to say in response to teachers being told and actively doing this, covering up what's going on during the day? Your kid gets bullied. They're fighting other kids. They're, slacking off in class. You can't write about that. Tell the parents about how their week went. Don't say that. You can't tell them the truth. Sanitary conditions during the coronavirus, no hot water. Okay, fine. Most schools don't have hot water. But all right, what about the cleanliness between changing kids? You are literally changing 20 to 30 students, plus back to back. No gloves, no hot water, no hand sanitizer. Just one kid, next kid, one kid, next kid. Shitty diaper, piss, everything. Touching with your bare hands. I was the only person to go and wash my hands afterwards, and it seemed like I almost offended them by wanting to do that. And I'll talk about this in another video, but I worked for another company that had that same kind of issue as well. It's a Japanese thing. They don't wear gloves. They don't wash their hands. No hot water, no soap. They don't find it necessary when they're changing kids' diapers. And most schools don't even have changing tables. Like, they didn't either. They use these little, cheap foam mats they put down on the floor. And I'll give them props. They did spray down the mat with hand sanitizer. But that was also stupid, too, because it's literally just a quick wipe and done. Sometimes the mats are also being reused from student to student. And their bare butt is being placed on it. And those same mats people are stepping and walking on. Not really sure how clean I would consider that for putting my kid's bottom on, but whatever. So I'm done. Anyway, KDI didn't pay me. They owe me for a day's work, which is basically about $125 to $130. They cheated me out of. I worked for them. I cleaned for them. I, followed their rules. I did what I was asked to do. I worked the entirety of my shift. I got there early, stayed late. I did everything, and I nicely asked. I didn't put them in an embarrassing situation, asked from other teachers or other parents or other staff. I asked in privacy, and instead of being met with the same respect that I gave them at the end of it, I was humiliated and embarrassed in front of everyone. The management found no issue with what happened. They didn't apologize to me. They didn't feel sorry about it. And instead, at the end of it, they blamed me and pretty much said that they potentially, probably, have to cover costs from me quitting because they probably had to pay for my pension and health insurance. Yeah, right. After one day of work, you didn't get my pension book. I didn't get a health insurance card from you. And that does not get established in one day. That's not how that works. I've done this a million times. Not my first job. So whatever. I'm done. I know Japan defenders are going to make up excuses and justify what happened. I know KDI's people are going to come after me and, dislike this video and maybe comment, whatever, try to sue me. Go ahead. You'll literally just be proving my point. This video is not coming down. My opinion is not coming down. I'm actually going to leave a Google review too. So that's that. I'm done. So thank you for watching my super, super long story time, but I wanted to get it all out. Again, there's so much more to talk about. The story can go on forever, but I just want to share my experience and why I am not working there. And I wouldn't recommend this company to a personal close friend of mine, but if you're desperate in need of a job, I view KDI like how you view Nova and GABA and Eon. Like, it's a place to work at to get your foot in the door, to get job experience. It's not somewhere that you want to stay. It's not a company that you necessarily want to grow with, but if you're not a native English speaker, and if you lack teaching experience, it's definitely a company that you can do those things with, but do it at your own risk. You complain, fight back, have any issues. You have nobody in upper management to talk to. Your recruiter acts like they don't know you, and they will not give you any contact information for the people that are over, the franchisee. They will act like there's no such thing. And that's exactly what happened with me. I asked for information for whoever is over the franchise owner. They wouldn't give it to me. They only gave me the franchise owner's information, and basically I had the option to contact him, but I'm not trying to get ghetto Maury style and go back and forth with this guy. He knows that he owes me money, and he refused to pay me. So Yeah, and in fact, I'm just gonna go ahead and say his name. I believe his name is Kamade, whatever. If I can find the screenshots, I'm gonna list them here so you can see him for yourself. But yeah, he really, really did me bogus. I literally just asked for a pay advance. You could tell me no. I'm not trying to blackmail them for that, but it was the way they handled it. If they just told me no, I wouldn't do it, I wouldn't be making this video. But the fact they not only didn't give me the pay advance, allowed me to quit, even although that meant not having a teacher, they also refused to pay me for the work that I did. So they conned me at the end of the day. And so that was like, I guess, his way of getting revenge. In his mind, I wasted 3 months of their time thinking that they were going to have me as a teacher. And in turn, he wasted my time waiting 3 months to work one day for free, basically. So whatever, I guess I win in the end. So thank you so much for watching this video. If you have any questions about working for a kid's studio, anything you want to ask me, anything you want to add, or if you've worked here yourself, please, 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 please share your experience down in the comments below. It doesn't necessarily have to be bad. I'm okay with people being honest and open about their experience being there. Other than that, I would appreciate it if you would please like this video, leave a comment, and if you're not already subscribed, please do so. And you can also follow me on my social media. I have an Instagram and Twitter account that you can follow. You can also add me on Snapchat and like my Facebook page as well. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.